Another lifestyle is the Spiderverse movie, and it's
Yeah.
doing well.
I can begin with that because I actually saw it yesterday too, but I can't give it a completely fair assessment because I saw a very compromised version of it. Here's what happened. Yesterday, I had a limited time window between publishing our Little Mermaid video, the one that just got 100,000 views a couple of hours
Oh,
ago. Thanks for that. And Tom's birthday stream, and I knew that okay, I have an opportunity to go and see uh, Miles Morales across the Spider-Verse in this window right here. And then, as I was about to upload the video, I was like thinking, I'm not quite happy with this thumbnail. I'm not happy with the title. I have a different vision for it that's still going to fit with the topic. And then I spent half an hour tweaking it, and I'm glad I did because otherwise it would be talking a 20,000K video rather than 100K. But anyway, that's a different matter. Point is that I spent half an hour tweaking that, and then the screening that I was going to, that I had planned going to, read everything there was to know about everything, I didn't make it. Then I saw, okay, there's a different screening here at this cinema. So if I go into the car, I drive like hell. I'll miss the first 5-10 minutes, but I'll catch the rest, and it's just going to have to do. So I didn't read any fine print or anything. I just ran into the car, slammed the gas, and I was off. And I was advised there, the movie has already begun. I don't care. Just give me a ticket. And I jumped in. And I knew I had missed the first 10 minutes, but that was the biggest problem because, as the more perceptive of you have realized, I'm not a native English speaker. My country, as a general thing, is subtitle land, but we do an exception for animated kids movies. Those are dubbed, so they come out in two versions. You have the Norwegian dub version, which are on daytime for kids and everything, and then every animated movie is also released with the original dub because they know that every adult in the audience absolutely hates dubbing and wants to see the original version. Of course, the original screening I was going to, I had, of course, checked was the original dub, but I was in a rush. I didn't read the fine print. So suddenly I was 10 minutes into a screening where they spoke Norwegian. And I was like, what the fuck? Because I hate dubbing. You lose all of the original voice acting and everything, and especially a movie that is like so diverse, let's say, everyone speaks like their own dialect, translate this into Norwegian, that just, yeah, that doesn't work, which is what I mean. I saw a deeply compromised version of the movie, and I cannot give it a fair assessment because of that. What I will say, though, is that on the whole, there were many things I liked about it. I thought that Spot was absolutely brilliant. I was pleasantly surprised to find that outside of the diversity and that there was loads of, there was no real wokeness or anything. The movie was overly long. It felt like kind of like a Disney Plus series just condensed into movie length. But on the whole, it was far more enjoyable than I thought it would be. I didn't even
so
mind the animation style. I know that Tom is going to kick me off the stream for saying that, but so yeah. So that's my brief review. I was pleasantly surprised. This was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And Tom, who has been ahead of the curve of this, because many are now starting to see woke issues with the original movie that one didn't pick up on before. Tom saw that right away. And Tom, you'll be glad to know that this movie does make a point of the fact that Miles Morales is not Spider-Man, without going to any further spoilers.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's
So,
my brief thoughts on it. WDW Pro, what did you think?
well, Andre, I'm very curious about something now that I know that you saw the Norwegian dubbed version of this.
Yeah.
Did the version that you watched feature the BLM sticker?
Uh I'm sure it did, but I was
It's
more
very
annoyed.
prominent.
I was, I'm sure it did, but I was just like so distracted with these characters that obviously don't speak Norwegian, how they were like awkwardly trying to mix in mix in Ebonics with the
Yes.
Norwegian dub with a slight African accent, and most
Well, I
of
can.
them are obviously Pakistanis because that's one of our biggest immigrant groups where you have like an accent. So
I
like
see.
half the dubbing was, yeah. So I
I
was
see.
so distracted by the. That's what I mean. It was compromised. I was so distracted by the audio that I missed half of what was happening on the
Well,
screen.
the reason I ask that is because
But
there
they
are
wouldn't have changed that. Nothing was changed visually. They didn't alter a single thing. Like all the panels, all of this was in English.
sure. The reason I ask though is because there are places where the film virtue signals in very minor ways, such as when the sticker is on his backpack and it's placed in a very prominent position so that you have to see it. Um, and of course, we know that's a political organization. Well, there are varieties of that and what that statement means, the BLM statement. But at least part of it is a political organization, which we now know was quite corrupt and used its funds to funnel to mansions. But the reason I asked is because that sticker was rather clever to me, because I thought, you know what? By not having it be part of the dialogue and just being a sticker on a backpack, there are versions, I'm sure, that will go into places such as China where they will simply remove that sticker. And so that's why I was wondering if that
Yeah,
had happened in
or
Norway.
they'll say something like "Glory to the Chinese Empire" or something.
Yes, you can change the font on that sticker to any number of things that you'd like.
Exactly. Yeah,
Now,
I didn't notice, but again, my experience was so compromised by the Norwegian dub that I wouldn't have noticed. What I noticed most was the stuff that I thought was really cool and that really worked. Like Spot was freaking brilliant.
yes, that is a brilliant character. Now, the way I looked at this film is that artistically, in terms of the animation, I found this to be on par with John Wick 4 in terms of being something that elevates a genre. And so with John Wick 4, that took the beat 'em up, shoot 'em up genre to a new level of artistic expression that I did not even know could exist. And in this film, they do things with animation that I did not know were possible. I had never even conceptualized what they're doing with some of the ways that they shift colors in a dynamic way. However, I do have a philosophical disagreement with this film. And my fundamental philosophical disagreement has to do with the storytelling here. My problem, and that's not to say that I don't enjoy the movie overall. It's not the greatest movie I've ever seen. It's tremendously better than The Little Mermaid. But my issue is that with any film that I watch, I expect the film to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And even if there's going to be a cliffhanger situation, I expect to have resolution so that I feel as if I have actually watched a singular piece of content. This movie does not have that. Now, there are good ways to have a beginning, middle, and an end when you are part of a broader story. And we can think about The Empire Strikes Back. At the end of that film, we know we're going into a third film. There's no doubt about it, and the story requires it. And yet, it feels as if we've had a beginning, middle, and end. We've had resolution. The Lord of the Rings trilogies, they are the trilogy with the movies. Those each feel as if they are their own story, despite the fact that they exist as a broader trilogy. With Across the Spiderverse, this movie just ends. It just comes to an abrupt stop, and it feels more akin to, if you think way back to when Halo 2 released and people have been waiting years for that game, it just ends. And then you're like, well, now wait a minute, I have to wait for the next game. And that's how this one feels. And so fundamentally, I disagree with that approach. I think that they could have had this have the arc to it, and there is no arc. We just stop in the very middle of a growing story.
Yeah, I agree
Beyond
with
that,
that. I was like, WTF? That was like my thought when it ended.
yes, and well, I began to realize that this thing was not going to end when we had 10 minutes of runtime left, and more big reveals were happening, and we were nowhere close to summation of anything. But the other thing I would say is that I think that many people are going to really love this film, and I don't begrudge them at all, and I enjoyed
I
it.
agree.
But I think there are also some demographics that are not going to enjoy it, such as Tom. And so some of those demographics, this is one of the odd ones. I put this out this morning on my video, but I think anybody who has a proclivity for seizures should really think seriously before going to see this thing. I think the bright flashing lights could be a problem. I also
If you
think
have
that
epilepsy, you might want to give this one a miss.
Yeah, and if you have a family with small children, I'm not sure that this is a movie for small children. Not because there's
No,
anything
not
in
at
here
all.
that's graphically violent or would cause problems there, but simply because I think you're not going to enjoy the movie after 30 or 40 minutes when your kids are getting bored and you still have 2 hours left to go. That's
Yeah.
going to be a hassle for you. And then finally, I think that if you are not someone who is closely entwined with pop culture or with the Spider-Man franchise, I think a lot of the movie will go over your head. And that's not going to be fun. Whereas people who are greatly entangled with pop culture and Spider-Man and the Marvel universe, they're going to see so many Easter eggs and callbacks and references that that's part of the fun. And this movie leans heavily on that. So without it, if you take your 65-year-old father or grandfather or your uncle or your cousin to go see it and they don't care much about comic books, I think they're probably going to find this to be a little dull because in reality, when you strip away all of the Marvel stuff, when you strip away the amazing artistry that they've done here, this is really a trolley car philosophical conundrum episode that could be 30 minutes and it's stretched way out. That's not to say it's a bad movie. It's really fun. The animation is phenomenal. We've never seen some of this stuff before, but from the story perspective, and I think Script will agree if he's there now, I think there's a little bit that's barren. Script, are you there?
Oh, I'm here, and
All right,
there's
Script.
nothing in this movie
Eviscerating.
there's nothing in this movie that I haven't seen before or done better, especially in animation.
Oh no, Script disagrees with me. Okay, Script, name them then. What we got?
Well, I just saw nothing that I haven't seen before in either cartoons, especially on Cartoon Network or in Canada and Teletoon. Any sort of like even in the original 60s Spider-Man, they did a psychedelic episode with crazy colors on it that they had to take off because they were worried about
That
it.
was the Ralph Bakshi one, yeah, where he actually reused was it a rocket?
We don't need to get into it, Tom. That's okay. I'm just making the reference. And
no, but anyway, no, you're right. Sorry.
Sticking to Spider-Verse. The other part too is that it superficially grabs plot points from other media that has and doesn't really introduce until very late in the game. In fact, the inciting incident and the stakes come around over an hour and a half into the movie, where you actually see like, oh, this is why things are working this way. And we don't see any consequences of that up for the first hour. In fact, all we're getting is a bunch of meandering of superficial ideas and problems that don't actually have any consequences. We get this tug of war between do Gwen and Miles like each other in a romantic sense, and the defying of like a 15-year-old wanting to be an adult, and the trope of the fact that Gen Xers and baby boomers are like, we never want our kids to grow up, and now look at us in 2023 where those children have not yet grown up. So, I mean, you kind of see a cause and effect part there that's just kind of recycling old stuff over and over again. And there's no stakes. And the villain of the story, or at least the main antagonist, is maybe in 12, 13 minutes of the entire movie overall. And then the rest is just exploring all these Spider-Verses and exploring these characters and stopping the momentum of the story to go into the backstory of these new characters introduced. And you spend between anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes doing that. It's a very thin story, and it ends at a very predictable twist at the mid-act turning point of what this is. This movie could have been done in a solid 90 minutes, beginning, middle, and end.
So, Script, I don't want to spoil the film. You've brought up something that I have wanted to discuss, and I haven't because I can't figure out how to do it without spoiling it, and it's occurred to me now. So let me just put it this way. Script, do you watch Rick and Morty?
Unfortunately, I have, yes.
Okay. Then this film makes perfect sense to you. It's largely Rick and Morty all over again. But did you take away what I did? That towards the end of the film, when a certain character appears, you're like, oh, that's Evil Morty. We're doing that. This is literally just a Rick and Morty season. I got you. Did you have that moment where you just thought that, or was that only me?
You could do Rick and Morty. You could do Mirror Universe from Star Trek. Heck, they even have another plot from Star Trek, City on the Edge of Forever. There's a plot point there because they have to do that. And yeah, they don't make Miguel O'Hara the bad guy. He's responsible for something, and he has a belief, and he's an antagonist, but he's not the villain. And the other part too is the villain loses what it is they were after in the first place to go after more power, and we get maybe 2 moments of that. It's really just a mangled mess. Spiderwebs are far more organized than this story.
Ooh, that's a tough one there.
And they're also less convoluted.
Okay, so script. Let me play devil's advocate then.
Sure.
So when I'm talking about things that we haven't seen before in animation, and I could easily be persuaded to your side. Let's say that Andre enjoyed this more than I did. It seems to me, and that I'm sort of in the middle, and then you didn't enjoy it. Is that fair to say?
No, I was actually really disappointed. I thought that
That's a reason. Well, certainly in my point of view, but yeah.
Okay, so
Like-
so let me
But
play devil's
I'd have
advocate.
to actually watch
Sure, yeah.
watch an original version to properly assess it.
In terms of when I was referring to the animation, that they were at the edge or beyond of what we had seen before. I'll give you one example without
Sure.
spoiling the film.
Okay.
There is a part of the movie where Gwen is talking to a family member, and as part of her conversation, the colors dynamically shift over and over and over in that scene. And when that was happening, I was a little bit bored. But when it happened, I thought, you know what? If I wasn't bored already, if this hadn't been, an hour and a half, 2 hours in, this would be really intriguing to me. This is whoever came up with this. This is very clever what they're doing. Now, did you find any of those sorts of moments in there, or no?
No, I didn't find it because I've seen techniques like that done before in live action with color timing and changing. And a great scene in the movie The Warriors does that also. They have the red light and green light in the subway tunnel that goes and it reflects the emotional exchange between the characters. So, like, again, maybe new in animation, but it's not something new overall that I have not seen before and something else or more superior.
Yeah, I think that sums up everything we can say about the movie so far without going into a larger spoiler discussion. But let's talk about the box office for it and what it's going to do to The Little Mermaid. Because so far, we have the Thursday preview screenings, and the numbers there, they were quite good. For comparison, The Little Mermaid did $10 million in its Thursday screenings. Whereas last I heard, of course, the numbers are still coming in, but last I heard, Across the Spiderverse did upwards of 16 million, bordering on 17 million. And
17.5 now, I believe.
17.5, yeah,
Yeah,
numbers
almost.
are going up increasingly. So
Yeah.
basically, it utterly squashed, even just comparing, without them going head to head, just comparing Thursday screening to Thursday screenings, Across the Spider-Verse absolutely crushed The Little Mermaid. This can't be good going into the weekend for The Little Mermaid, can it? What do you think is going to happen with both movies?
Well, I
Well,
would
the
say-
brand of Spider-Man is far greater than The Little Mermaid. I'm sorry, Culture, you can continue.
Oh, go ahead. Script. Go. You're on the right track.
Well, that's basically it. The brand of Spider-Man is still a very strong and prominent brand. It's also been far more active in the social conversation than The Little Mermaid has. So it's got a huge lead over everyone. And I think that's going to do it well to its benefit, regardless of the quality of the actual story. I think it's got enough flashing lights. It's got a lot of extended fight action scenes. That will do wonders for kids when those scenes happen. But the in-between moments, it's going to take a while to get there.
Yeah, and it's not surprising. And again, I mean, Little Mermaid kind of cheated because it dropped a Wednesday, limited one showing per theater showing that they didn't widely advertise, which added nearly $1 million to their Thursday preview number. But that $10 million is no comparison. We've already seen the writing on the wall, and Mermaid's run, as Pro has pointed out, and many others that are here on this panel have pointed out, that this film Mermaid is just a flop, and it's not I don't think it's good. I think it has no chance of being profitable. And all those folks that were arguing that it was going to make $1 billion or
Oh my gosh!
were clearly
what egg
wrong.
on their face?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh!
And again, I mean, a lot of us were very skeptical that it would get there or even anywhere close to being profitable. Well, it turns out we were right. Spider-Man, this is the weirdest thing. Disney usually does a great job with windowing, and it's something that I've been commenting on in various comments on videos that I've done this week. They've failed for I don't know how long now. I mean, think of it, Script. Or Pro or anybody, how many times have we seen them just destroy or cannibalize their own audience in theaters? And I mean, you could say that Spider-Man's a boys' property and Little Mermaid's a girls' property.
But that's why they're promoting Gwen to the level they are. They're attempting to grow the demographic without harming the Spider-Man side of it. And Disney doesn't do that. Disney, if this were Disney at the lead, this would be a Gwen movie completely, and it would be marketed as a Gwen movie.
Yeah, and it wasn't. For those that wonder that, no, it wasn't. There's no girl bossism here. It's diverse tale, but none of that. So yeah, but just sticking with the box office, then this movie clearly isn't going to do any wonders for The Little Mermaid, which I think you can stick a fork in after this weekend is over. But how do you think this movie is going to perform? What are the estimates for it?
I don't have them pulled up in front of me, but like I said, I still think this thing is headed domestically for somewhere between 250 and 265 at the end of its domestic run. I think internationally it has broad appeal because of, the animation. There's a lot of international audiences that appreciate this animation and animation style. So I have a feeling that you'll see this movie crack that, and I didn't think it was going to, but you'll see this film crack that 750 and over category for earnings. Beyond that, I don't know. I don't think it'll make over 850, but I think, and it cost far less. I mean, you have the Spiderverse film is $100 million, and Little Mermaid's 250. So I think if you're going to look at profitability, the Spiderverse film is going to get there fast.
Yeah, and we have a viewer question here. STR Red Wolf wonders, does this Spider-Verse has Spider-Ham? No Spider-Ham, no ticket from me, not worth it. Well, I'll say this, when you go into this, if you decide to go into this movie for Spider-Ham, don't blink.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's accurate, yes.
Wow.
Oh, what a good way to say that. Yes.
This clip was taken from Midnight's Edge in the Morning, which streams live every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 9 AM Pacific Time on the Midnight's Edge main channel. There you can send in your live questions and comments before clips and full stream replays are uploaded to Midnight's Edge live archives. We are also on Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey and Facebook, so smash that like, help share, subscribe and join us.